So Beauty and the Beast goes on to become, I think, the only animated picture up to that point to be nominated for Best Picture by the Academy. Has
Right.
it ever, when did that dawn on you, just how special that was, what you guys achieved was, or has it never completely
Has
sunk in?
it ever?
Has it ever sunk in?
um, there was a lot of push for it by the studio, and the big one-page ads in the Hollywood trades, and the whole work in progress showing in New York. That was part of that. That was I think Jeffrey Katzenberg and Terry Press's idea to let people know, let the public know that animation isn't something that you just like throw buckets of money in one end of a machine and film comes out another. There's a lot of people working really hard at this. This is what it takes to do it, and so you could see the rough pencil drawings, you could see the storyboards, and this is with paint, this is without paint, this is with a black and white background, so you could see the process. And it wasn't, if this had been done 40, 50 years ago, you would have seen a giant paintbrush go through, and the magic drips of paint and everything would have been colored. This was much more this was much more nuts and bolts, and so that was geared to it as well. So, and there was buzz. People were talking about it, and the Golden Globes didn't hurt any either. That was something that I don't think we were expecting at all at that point. But when that happened, we were like, wow, okay, great. That's sometimes an indicator, so
it's definitely a precursor most of the time.
Yeah. Our expectations went up another couple of notches, but it was still not until that morning that, the nominees were read off in New York at like 8 a.m. in New York, which was 5 a.m. in Los Angeles. So everybody in Los Angeles, that worked on it was sitting in front of their TV and their bathrobes and their pajamas and their underwear and whatever, and like watching. At the time, I had a 3-year-old at home, so I couldn't go, yeah, I couldn't yell, because it would wake him up.
You run outside to scream, yeah.
Yeah.
Go lock yourself in the car and scream as loud as you can.
Right. So yeah, and so that was pretty amazing right then. It's like, oh my God, we just got nominated, and like you said, it was the first time that an animated picture had been nominated for best picture. To my mind, it's the only time, because that was when there were only 5 nominees allowed. They've since opened it up to 10, and Pixar has picked up. To me, that's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, they'll let anybody in now. But at that time, it was a big deal. I remember running to a liquor store on my way to work and getting a couple bottles of champagne and a few gallons of orange juice, and we were going to have mimosas. When I got to work, they were way ahead of me. The secretary's desk was a bar, and people were well into it already. So yeah, that was an alcohol day.
Now, in the midst of all we've discussed so far, you had a hand, I guess, in The Lion King a little bit. What do you remember about that session working on that story, and did any of your contributions make it into the final film?
Yeah. I remember at that time I was happy to draw again. I was happy to do storyboards again, and not have to be in the big. The big meetings. We did have a big meeting kind of early on to kind of change the direction of the film, because it was, like I said before, it was kind of floundering. They didn't know it was Bambi with lions, and what are we going to do? How are we going to make this more epic? How are we going to make this a better story? And there was a bunch of us around the room, and some of the ideas were, I think one of my ideas, they had already talked about, just like upping the royalty and the bloodline and all that stuff. And I think it might have been my idea to kind of bring the Arthurian, the land is the king is the land. When the king is deposed, the land suffers. So when everything is wasteland in the Pride Lands at the end, that's because the king is gone. And I had a hand in that. But actual storyboarding, there was the scene between like little Simba and Scar, when Simba's just crawling all over Scar. Oh, you're my crazy uncle, and you're so weird. And Scar says, you have no idea. And that was mine. And I did some versions of Timon and Pumbaa. Most of that was redone and not in there anymore. But the song, Scar's song with the hyena at the end, the Be Prepared,
Mm-hmm.
I boarded that.
Oh, wow.
So that was my helping.
Now, were you also involved in story development or anything with Aladdin?
Very, very early on. This is when I was in development again, and Ron and John said, yeah, whatever you can do, here's the script, here's the songs. And I had heard the songs before, and there were extra songs in there. This is when Howard had some additional songs that I don't know if they do that in Broadway. I don't remember, but there were songs in there that were ultimately cut. That Howard, I think, was kind of sad, because they very personal to him. But at any rate, I did some just some single drawings, not storyboards, but single drawing setups and visual development for A Friend Like Me. And I think there's one gag, like one line, when the genie says, when Aladdin's looking at a menu, he says, try some of column A, try all of column B, and these two columns shoot up. That was columns. Yeah.
Now, your next big project, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, was that film even on your radar before Jeffrey Katzenberg called you?
Nope.
What's the story behind that call?
Kirk and I were working on a different project. It was an Orpheus and Eurydice project, and we'd been on that for several months. I think David Getz was on that with us as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were working on that, not making a huge amount of headway, but we still had confidence that we could figure it out. So, and we just got this call out of the blue. It's like Jeffrey Katzenberg on line one kind of thing, and he was on a one of the StarTAC phones, a speaker phone.
Flips. Yeah, I had one of those.
Yeah, and so Kirk and I were both there, and he goes, "Guys, drop everything. You're going to be doing something else." We went, "What? Like what?" It's like, you're just going to be doing something that's going to change your life. That's all. And he spelled out. He's like, "Yeah, you guys are going to be doing Hunchback of Notre Dame. We've already got Alan and Stephen Schwartz. He didn't explain to us at that time. We found out like in the following day or two that David Staten had presented the project to Jeffrey and the higher ups based on a comic book, and they said, yeah, okay. And Michael Eisner really liked the story. I mean, he liked the classic Victor Hugo story. So they said yes to David, and then Jeffrey came to us. We were first on the list this time, and in fact, Jeffrey used us as bait. Just he told Alan and Stephen, yeah, we got Gary and Kirk, and then he told me and Kirk, yeah, we got Alan and Stephen. So he's like playing us off of each other, like Welcome the pro he is. Yeah.
Here you guys were truly about to embark on perhaps one of Disney's probably darkest animated films ever, I guess, to me at least. When you guys accepted the job, did you already have an idea as to what you wanted out of the story, or how dark you thought it would be or needed to be? Was it based on that comic book version?
It was a balancing act because we had both read the story before. We were both familiar with the book, and we then immersed ourselves in all the film versions that we could get our hands on. And yeah, it was super dark. I mean, it was really like, okay, this is a classic. This is a literary classic. It's been done, half a dozen times in the last, 75 years. How the hell are we going to turn this into a Disney cartoon, without screwing it up? That was the balance, It's like, here's this dark literary classic. Here's Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, we got to
make it kid friendly somehow, but still tell the story.
we got, yeah, without screwing it up. And of course, it's not just a literary classic, it's a French literary classic, and we're going to piss off France if we do it wrong. So, we knew we had to like really tread carefully by both honoring the story and keeping it as close to the story as we could, but still being aware that we're working for Disney and this is going to be a family film.
I'm curious, what was the studio's first reaction upon listening to the lyrics and seeing the presentation of Claude Frollo's song Hellfire?
Well, we were the first ones to see it. Paul and Gaetan Brizzi, the Brizzi brothers, who they had a studio in Paris, and Disney basically bought them out and said, "Okay, you're working for us now." And Paul and Gaetan came to the States and were working as board artists, and they can draw like nobody else. I mean, they're absolutely fantastic draftsmen, and I think they had kind of an affinity towards that song. When we were looking at it in the script, like where it's going, what its job is in terms of storytelling and the song itself. And they said, give this to us. And we put, we let them go, and they like shut themselves in their office for at least a week, and probably closer to 2 weeks, never saw them at all. And then they came out with like 7 or 8 boards, of all these beautifully rendered story sketches, and they played it. And we had heard the song before this, and we were like, oh boy, this is gonna be a tough sell. Yeah. And Paul and Gaetan presented it just on a little cassette recorder, a little portable cassette recorder, like hit play, and then they, pointed to the drawings as the song
as it went on
progressed. Yeah. And by the end of it, we were all just, I think, all of us silent, all of us slack-jawed. Kevin Harkey did a quick sketch of Frollo with a cigarette at the end, tacked it as the very last drawing, and we went, wow, okay, this is amazing. How are we going to do this? And so we presented it to Peter Schneider and Tom Schumacher, and they said, this is amazing. How are we going to do this? They also clearly loved it, but we're also like, I think we're kind of happy to kick it upstairs. And Michael Eisner, Roy Disney may have had a little bit of trepidation, but Michael Eisner is the one that said, no, let's do it. This honors the tone of the story, and this is good. I think if we soften this, we do it a huge disservice, and we do the film a huge disservice. And so, to his credit, Michael Eisner, came through on this.